Here's a video that will be helpful for anyone who has a difficult time figuring out what some of these construction framing terms mean. So let's go ahead and get started with our first one, which will be the concrete building foundation. Next up, let's take a look at the sill plates or bottom wall framing plates. Then we have a completed wall. Then we'll zoom in on the door framing where we have jack studs or cripples, a door header, trimmers, and king studs. Then we'll head over to the window where we have basically the same thing. We have a window header, upper cripples, upper jack studs, a trimmer, king stud, lower jack studs, and a sill plate. And sometimes you're going to have a double sill plate, which means you will have one sill plate stacked on top of the other. And in some cases, you're going to have double trimmers. This will be two trimmers that are right next to each other. Next up, we're going to have midspan blocking. Midspan blocking is usually located in the middle of the wall or near the center, and it's often going to be staggered. And the reason why it's staggered is because it's easier to nail into the blocking from both sides if they're not lined up. However, sometimes they will need to be lined up for strapping and shear panel assemblies. Next up, let's take a look at the structural hold downs and shear wall assembly. And for that, we're usually going to have a post on each side with a structural hold down. And these hold downs will usually have anchor bolts that are embedded in the concrete footings. And shear walls are used to provide more lateral or side-to-side stability in the wall. And we can't forget our anchor bolts. These are often used around the perimeter of the building, where shots and pins might be used on the interior walls. However, if you have interior shear walls, you might need anchor bolts and hold downs for those also. Next up, let's go ahead and install our shear panel. That's usually going to be plywood or OSB, oriented strand board. And if the shear panel is only going to be required in a few spots along an exterior or interior wall, you might need to install some furring. The furring is used to create a nice flat wall. Next up, let's take a look at a situation where you might need a larger header because you're going to be transferring a structural load from maybe a floor beam above. And this also might require double trimmers or even a post. And if you notice in some framing, you're going to see two blocks at the corners or other openings like doors or windows, where you're only going to have a couple of blocks. And that's often another method to add a little more stability to these areas. And don't forget, if you're going to be installing a block around a door, to make sure that it is either lower or higher, so the electrician can install their light switch boxes without knocking your block out. And then we have a structural post. The structural post will be transferring a load from above to the foundation. And you are going to have breaks in the top plates. So this is the break in the lower plate. This would be the break in the upper plate. And often this lap needs to be at least 24 inches. But some building plans require this to be 4 foot. And that information can usually be found on the building plans. And the part of the top plate that extends past, like this here, is often referred to as the ear. And don't ask me why. And the ear is used to connect two separate walls together at the top. And the other part is called the channel. That would be this section here of the wall framing that the ear would be running through to make the connection on this wall. And for those of you who have other names for the parts that I have provided you with, feel free to use the number attached to that reference part in the comment area and let us know if you have different names for some of these things. I know I have came across quite a bit of different names that can often be confusing. Now I'm going to go ahead and end this video with a slideshow of different wall framing parts that might be helpful for some of you seeing a photograph instead of a drawing of one of those parts. And thanks for watching. Also, don't forget to visit our website. We have an organized list of our videos there. You might have a difficult time finding that anywhere else.